talking about what makes you successful in life, relationships, and business. It's Jump, Pivot, and Roll with Shannon Stiles and Rachel Murphy.
Are you living a balanced life? What I mean by that is when you look at your life as a whole, are you heavy on one side? Do you maybe work out a lot, but you don't eat well? Or maybe you've got your health under control, but you don't take care of your mind. Well, that's what we're going to talk today about, living a holistic life. Today's guest is a very special guest. She has been in the health and wellness industry for over 13 years, and we're so excited to bring her on with you. And I think that the timing is so perfect because with the COVID-19 pandemic going on, a lot of us have lost that balance. Welcome to Jump, Pivot, and Roll. I'm Shannon Stiles.
And I'm Rachel Murphy.
And please welcome our special guest, Dale LeCure. Dale's coming from New York, right, Dale?
Yep, Albany, New York.
Yes. I'm so excited to have you on. This is not the first interview that we've had the privilege of having with you. You have so much knowledge, and that's why we wanted to bring you on the podcast, is because so much of this people don't know enough about. So can you tell us what a holistic life means?
So like you said, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It is an absolute pleasure to be here with you ladies. So holistic, you cannot separate the body, mind, and spirit. They all are so intimately connected. And when you have one that's out of balance, like you said, it just doesn't give us all of what we're looking for. We want to have both physical and mental and spiritual wellness, not just one piece of it. So that's kind of what holistic really means.
Well, and I remember being in a seminar once, and they had a wheel, and they had us color in where we were at the different points. For example, the spiritual, where would we be between a 1 to a 10? And when I got done with my wheel, it was real jagged. And they said, if you were to drive on this, how smooth would it be? And it doesn't go very smooth if you don't have a good balance of that. So how do we get a balanced life when it comes to our spiritual and our health and our gut and all of that?
So I posted this question once, and I think we talked about it on the last podcast, like what comes first, physical wellness or mental wellness? And that was like it's a really interesting question, and it's like a catch-22 kind of situation, right? So we talk about, I'm really big on the gut-brain connection. So we know now that the gut is the second brain. And the gut, if it's out of balance, which most of us it is because of, toxins or poor diet or high stress levels, it's hard to get the gut and the mind to communicate with one another. So when you start balancing the gut, which really means to clean up your diet, targeted probiotics, prebiotics, and phytobiotics, more water. So when you start cleaning that up, you'll notice that those neurotransmitters that really are produced or not in the gut start to fire. So for example, serotonin, 95% of serotonin is created in the gut. 75% of dopamine, GABA, norepinephrine, all of these things that we need to feel good and to feel focused and to feel motivated and to be able to have discipline to stay on track. All of those are produced primarily in the gut. So it's kind of like, do we get the gut? I think we kind of have to work on the gut first. And then you start feeling well, more emotionally lighter spirit, lighter mood, just more focused. And then it's kind of like you want to keep on going. So what we see a lot is when people start to repopulate the gut and start to get the gut in balance, what they notice is, I feel like exercising now. I don't want to eat that cake. You know what I mean? And they start having different cravings. So it's pretty fascinating what we see. And you know that for yourself, right? If you feel well, you're not really inclined to like grab that glass of wine or eat that cake because you don't really need it because you're feeling mentally and spiritually well. So we're
That's
not
really
looking for those.
cool. One of the things that I've always wondered, because I don't know that I live a holistic life. I mean, I try to do that whole balance thing. And I'm very big on cooking things myself, growing things myself. Growing my own herbs and drying them and using them. And it's something I love to do. But I often wonder, do you think part of the reason we have so much problem with our gut is because of the stuff that we're eating that is not homegrown or not bought at the farmer's market? I mean,
Or the pesticides.
exactly. Does that have a lot to do with that balance that we lose, Dale?
Yes, absolutely. And, kudos to you for doing all that. You know what I mean? Like, that's amazing. And I have always eaten clean myself. I'm really big on it. But even if you eat organic, there's still toxins that show up. You know what I mean? The soil is not healthy. So therefore, the foods, that we ate probably, a long time ago had more nutrients in them because the soils are just depleted, even if they're organic. So I'm like a big fan of, supplementation. I just feel like we have to supplement to get all the nutrients that we need. And yeah, to answer your question, absolutely, all the toxins in our water, our foods, all that contribute to really getting the gut out of balance. Like our bodies can't process all this stuff. Like our livers are like overloaded big time.
Yeah.
So, it definitely plays a huge role. And we know when we eat something that doesn't make us feel well, and kids especially, right? Kids are really like, they react with bad behavior when you give them something that's not good for them. And, sugar is a big one. I mean, I could go on, naughty girl.
I know.
I could go on and on about sugar, but like the main thing that people, I think, really is good for people to understand is when you eat a lot of sugar, the more sugar you eat, the more sugar you want. And sugar is extremely addictive, and it also very much upsets the microbiome or the gut bacteria. And what happens is the body, the bacteria, the bad bacteria in the gut that is produced by so many things, but sugar being one of them, starts to say, I need more of that to keep that bacteria alive. So that's why it's like craving more of it. But when you start to eat better and you start to introduce the good bacteria, then that kind of like pushes out the bad bacteria, and then your sugar cravings go away, and then you have more neurotransmitter signaling going on. So it's kind of a win-win-win situation.
So I'm going to be the guinea pig here because Rachel grows her own food. You eat all organic food. I mean, you're very good at what you choose. And out of the three of us, I would have to say I am guilty of not being as intentional with what I eat. And a lot of times it's because we're just in such a rush and we do so many things and we run. It is really hard to find healthy places to eat. Here in Wichita, we have one place that I go to quite often. It's called Duck Greens. And I get a good salad or, maybe a wrap. But besides that, it's hard to find a good fast food place. So what would you recommend for someone who has an on-the-go lifestyle? Like a lot of our listeners are mothers or, they're entrepreneurs and they're constantly going. What would you recommend to them?
So I would say the most important thing is preparation. So, and when you're cooking something, stretch it out, make 3 times the amount. You're saying yes, Rachel, because you probably
yes,
did that.
I did that last night with spaghetti.
Yeah, I mean, if you make soup, like I like the winter because I can make a lot of soups and stews. I mean, I will make a batch for 20 people, you know what I mean? So that's what makes it easy. So you have stuff ready to grab. And there's definitely like some good, protein bars that aren't really high in sugar. Make sure there's not like artificial stuff in there. It's preparation is really the answer to that.
So I have a struggle I would love to talk to you about because Shannon, I do try to do a lot of the right things, but I have a weakness, and it is such a bad weakness. And it's not chocolate and it's not sugar. Like, I like that. It is bread.
Oh, well, that's pretty much sugar.
I was going to say, I believe that I have heard that is kind of like feeding the sugar or feeding the parasites or whatever is in there, because I'm not kidding. I can take a whole loaf of French bread and some butter and some cheese, and I am in hog heaven. It's like a candy store. So how do and I know it's not great, and I know it's the reason there's this tire around my middle,
She's exaggerating, but go ahead.
It's a little tire, but it's a tire. How do I defeat that? Like what is it that I need to do to change that? And does grinding your own wheat and then making your own bread and using, coconut sugar instead of sugar, like, is there anything to where I can still have the bread but do it better? I told you this is my candy, Shannon.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, anytime, like you said, your body's craving it. So bread is really the same as sugar. It turns right, especially if it's white bread. So in terms of making, it's not white bread.
No, I don't eat white bread.
Okay, so it's very dense, like it has fiber in it. Right. So that's good. So that's better.
Except for the French bread's white bread. So
yeah, so that's what I was talking about, the French bread. I mean, it's pretty much non-existent in terms of nutrients. So the only way really to do that is to get the gut having more of the good bacteria and basically pushing out the bad bacteria, because it's true. The bad bacteria is sending signals to you saying, give me more of that so I can stay alive. And that's what it's doing. So it's definitely.
Good bacteria is not found in cheese puffs.
No.
That is her Achilles heel. So speaking of good bacteria, what are some of the good bacteria that we can have that are tasty?
So, we have targeted ones. We have targeted strains of prebiotics, probiotics, phytobiotics. But in terms of like probiotic foods, we all know about yogurt. But then again, if you're having yogurt with sugar, sugar flavored yogurt, there's a ton of sugar added to that. So if you want to do yogurt, do one, they have them out there now that have probiotics in them, which is better. I think ideally, if you like to make your own stuff, like get a really good high quality probiotic and make your own yogurt.
Okay, so again, you're talking to someone that barely has enough time to make dinner.
All right, well, I'm talking to Rachel right then.
Okay.
I got it now. I got my pen and paper right here.
I mean, I'll end up going to Rachel's house to eat, but what about the other people like me that just live such a fast life?
Okay, so what you want to do, and it can be baby steps too.
Mm-hmm.
Buy plain yogurt and then buy a flavored yogurt and mix the two together. That way you're cutting the sugar content in half, and then do less and less and less, or get a plain yogurt and then add your own berries to it. And maybe
I love it.
Would honey be okay, or does that do the whole sugar thing?
It is a sugar thing, but again, it's like good, better, best. You know what I mean? So
berries are best.
Yes.
Honey would be good.
Plain yogurt.
So it's Shannon, Rachel, and Dale, right?
And I'm not perfect. I am not perfect. Let me tell you, I am not perfect. But I'm pretty good. I mean,
So Dale, let's go back a little bit, because I think that when the difference between myself and you or Rachel would really have to come down to one thing, I believe, and that is the discipline to do it. So how can we overcome that? And how can we become more disciplined in order to be able to change our life and have a more well-balanced life?
So this is such a good question, because really discipline is the key to everything in life, right? Yeah. Anything that you want to attain is going to take some discipline. Now, I mentioned that I was with another company for 10 years. Okay. In that company, I taught about how to lose weight through cellular cleansing. All right. That took a tremendous amount of discipline to do. So what would happen? People would lose weight. I had someone lose 100 pounds. She gained it all back. You know, I had, this went on and on and on and on. And then when I got involved in learning more about the gut-brain connection, I was like, that's the missing link. Because if you can get rid of the cravings and you can get someone feeling better on an emotional level, then you're in the game now. Now you can have some discipline. So people don't like to have restriction in their life. They don't like to be told you can't have this, you can't have that. So what I love about when you get the gut in balance, when you restore it and rebalance it with specific prebiotics, probiotics, phytobiotics, your cravings will go away. So it's not, I can't have that. It becomes, I don't really want that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how you get rid of it. How you get rid of those cravings is just to get the gut talking to the brain, giving it the correct signals, not the bad signals.
You get anti-cheese puffs.
And you know what's interesting is that, you know, when you don't eat it as much, you don't want it as much. And that's with everything. You know, if you have a craving for something, that means something's out of whack. There's either something in that food that you need, which with corn puffs or whatever you just said, there probably isn't. but for the most part, are the things that we crave are the things that are not good for us. You know what I mean? And it's just the body is out of balance and it's sending the wrong signals.
So I remember when I was pregnant with my son, and my son's 21 years old now, but when I was pregnant with Parker, one of the things I craved all the time were lemons. And it got so bad that I would actually go to lunch with people. And I remember I worked for a law firm at the time, and we went on this huge lunch with everybody in the law firm, and there were probably 20 plus people there.
So you were probably needing the vitamin C from the lemon. You could possibly have needed it because it's a very alkaline, believe it or not, even though it's, you know, acidic. When it goes into your body, it becomes very alkaline. Alkaline is a really ideal state for the body to be in.
So I have a question about that because I'm very interested in that. So I know that is the optimum state that you want is to have your body that way. Mm-hmm. And I've heard that, oh gosh, we may have lost her.
Yeah, it's saying you're the host.
You're the host, but it still says it's recording. So hopefully she can come back. If not, what we'll be able to do is Andy will be able to go and put something else together. She'll call me here in a minute. But so on that, is it having lemon in room temperature water every day? Like, is that one of the best ways to do that? And should it always be fresh lemons that day? Or can you have it in, you know, out on the counter for a day or two? Like what is the process of that?
Yeah, I love that. So yeah, lemon water, like first thing in the morning, like warm lemon water is so cleansing after you've like not had food all night. It's a really great way to introduce that process in the morning. I like to use, and you don't have to use organic lemons, which I know are really expensive, but I don't put the grind in the water. I just squeeze the lemon and then throw it out. Like, don't let that in because that's got pesticides and stuff
on it. Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, squeeze of hot lemon water in the morning, first thing, is really, really great for the liver. Should you
warm up the water down?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, room temperature is good too, but warm in the morning is just very, very cleansing, has a lot of cleansing properties.
And how many lemons would you add to your water? Is it just 1 lemon to a cup of water?
Yes, I would say even less, even half a lemon, as much as your palate wants. Go by how it tastes to you.
So what is a morning routine that you would say to our listeners, if you want to get started, if you want to take some baby steps and start to get your body and gut and brain all connecting, this is how you start it. This is the baby step that will be your game changer. What would that be?
So I would, first of all, one day at a time. You're not beating yourself up if you do something that's not perfect. It's okay. We're moving on. We're doing better the next day. So like we were just talking about, the warm lemon water first thing in the morning is like just a great way to cleanse. So that's a great place to start. And when you do that, you're going to feel lighter. You know what I mean? It's just going to feel good for 20 minutes or so. Then I would say measure the water that you take in every day. So the rule of thumb is half of your body weight in ounces of water.
That's a lot of water.
Yeah.
Can you get water point? Because one of the things that Shannon and I, we've taken on a lot of things. And one of the things that we were doing at one point was 75 hard. And regardless of our weight, regardless of being male or female, we were supposed to drink a gallon of water a day.
Well, I mean, for some people, if you're under, like, that could be too much.
Okay.
I mean, you can definitely drink too much water.
Okay.
So I would base it on your own personal body weight. Definitely.
And that should be half of what you weigh is
Yes.
what you want to take in.
Yes. And that alone is going to really even change what you want to eat or how much you want to eat. Because a lot of times the body is saying it's hungry when it's really thirsty. Like we don't differentiate. The body doesn't distinguish between hunger and thirst. So if somebody just ate like an hour ago and they feel like they want to eat something, instead, drink a big glass of water, wait a few minutes and see if that hunger is gone. Because oftentimes it will be, because you just ate. So it's just, the incorrect signal there. So, I mean, that's a great place to start, is just really, and just master one thing at a time. So if you can start off with, do the fresh, warm lemon water when you first get up, wait 20 minutes or so, eat a really high fiber breakfast, and then focus on getting your water intake for the next 5 days. Bringing that up. And you're going to notice a difference in energy. You're going to notice a difference in digestion. You're going to notice a difference in the amount of food that you want to eat. Just that thing alone could really change things. And it's a great place to start. And then secondly, the next level, I would say, start to work on, do some food journaling. What are you eating every day? Do a food journal for 5 days and then kind of look at it and assess, okay, maybe this wasn't so good. Let me try to remove that one thing for the next 5 days. You know what I mean? Like, just give yourself grace. Just don't expect to do everything all at once. And then to me, supplementation is super, super important. And if you have, targeted supplementation in terms of your gut health, there are certain things that it needs that you can provide that's really hard to do with just foods. It's actually impossible to do with just food. So again, it's good, better, best, right?
Right. I love that. So you're saying fresh lemon water, warm, half a lemon or whatever you can take is a great way for our listeners to start. And then if they're already doing that, then we want to move them to a food journal where we're actually writing down everything that we eat so that we can kind of see where we can make improvements, like leaving out the puffs or the sugar and that type of thing. Okay.
Yeah. So the sugar, two numbers that are important to really kind of take note of. One is fiber. So 30 grams of fiber a day is what's required and what is recommended. For some, it could mean even more than that, but can be difficult for people to get that much. So reading food labels and then finding other ways to get more fiber. And then also sugar, so the 25 grams a day. You start reading labels, you're going to be blown away because probably one or two of the things you're eating, it exceeds that 25. So it's
25
really
a day
grams.
is a healthy way
Yes,
to do it.
yes.
And then, so because I try and watch my sugar and I try and replace it with like coconut sugar or honey or maple, because I think a lot of our listeners probably are trying to do that because luckily a lot of people want to live this more holistic mind body lifestyle. How do we make sure that we're not overdoing it with those type of things?
Well, again, it's reading the labels, and you'll be surprised also to see how high those sugars are
Right now is a good time for us to take a quick break and hear a word from our sponsors. You're listening to Jump, Pivot, and Roll. We'll be back in just a moment.
The Jump, Pivot, and Roll podcast is brought to you in part by the Shannon Styles Allstate Insurance Agency. Just as you take that next step in life, you need to take that next step in protecting yourself, your car, your home, and your family. Reach out to Shannon at 316-773-9864 or shoot her an email at sstyles@allstate.com. Also by Simplify My Life ICT. Is your life cluttered? Do you need help with organization? Rachel Murphy can help. Check out Rachel's services online at simplifymylifeict.com or reach out to Rachel at simplifymylifeict@gmail.com. To keep up with the Jump, Pivot, and Roll podcast, make sure to follow them on their Facebook page. Just go to facebook.com/Jump, Pivot, and Roll. There you can find content, podcasts of the show, discussions with Rachel and Shannon, and more. Plus, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite podcasting sites, from iTunes and Spotify, Google Play to TuneIn, and right on their Podbean site at jumppivotandroll.podbean.com. And for all the exclusive content, make sure to become a VIP member on their Patreon site. Just go to patreon.com/Jump, Pivot, and Roll.
And welcome back to Jump, Pivot, and Roll. I'm Shannon Styles.
And I'm Rachel Murphy.
And
We're so glad you're here.
Yes, we are. Today our special guest is Dale LaCure, and she comes with us. She's in Albany, New York, and man, she has the most amazing information. Before we went to break, I know she was talking about, adding lemons and lemon water in your diet first thing in the morning. She shared this with me not long ago when I was having some serious digestive issues, and I was seeing a lot of doctors. I was having a lot of trouble, and it actually alleviated some of my pain and helped me a little bit. So the information we're getting today is just golden, and you're going to want to take lots of notes. Welcome back, Dale. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you being here.
Oh, it's a lot of fun being with you ladies.
So let me ask you a question. If you could go back to when you were younger, knowing what you know now, what is the most important information that you would take back to your younger self?
Wow. I grew up in the 50s, okay? We ate so much candy that every single time we went to the dentist, we had like 10 cavities. So, really, it's scary to think about. It really is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what we did back then, but luckily I raised my kids very differently. I was very, very kind of a little too much with my kids, but I did not want them to have sugar. I didn't want them to get addicted to sugar because it is so addictive. And I didn't want them to have, cavities like I did. I mean, it was ridiculous. And it's interesting because I have 5 children. All 5 of them, they never had fluoride treatments because I don't do anything like that. They never had cavities.
That's amazing. If that's not a
crazy?
testimony for how what you're saying is true, I don't know what would be.
I know. And we go into the dentist and they were like, boy, you did a really good job with their teeth. Like you've been keeping up with the fluoride treatments. I'm like, nope, never gave them one. I just
Now,
made sure their diet was good, and
I hear so many different things when you're talking about the diet. I hear so many different things about fruit.
Mhm.
I hear it's bad for you because there are a lot of carbs in it. I hear it's really good for you. You need to have them. What can you shed some light on this for us? Because I'm very confused.
Yeah, it is. Everything's confusing, right? Because you can really find
Yeah.
anything to support whatever it is you want. So I try to think about moderation. So for me, there are fruits that I do a little bit of, and there are fruits that I don't do at all. I like to eat seasonally. So in the winter, I rarely have fruit. In the summer, berries are good, but you want to make sure they're not sprayed. Apples, the same thing. These are fruits that are highly sprayed. I don't want those chemicals. So I'm really, really diligent about, I will not eat this if it's sprayed. So organic berries, organic apples, things that have like thick skin, you don't have to be as concerned about in terms of like spraying, like bananas, things like that. But again, I don't really eat bananas much at all. They're very, very high glycemic. If I do have a banana, I'll take like a piece and put it in my shake. So you don't want to like have that. The thing with fruits is they're really dense, like in terms of sugar. So you tend to eat too much of it. You know what I mean? It goes down easy because it's light. But when you look at the sugar intake, you're like, maybe I better chill out. And recently, I used to eat a lot of watermelon, like especially when I was pregnant. I like craved it, right? And it's because of the sugar, really. And there's water in it too, but I recently learned from a midwife. My daughter's pregnant now, and she asked me how big my babies were. I had enormous babies, like 9, 12 was my biggest. I had huge babies, and she said to my daughter, I want you to make sure you're not eating too much watermelon, because my daughter was like, I'm craving watermelon. She's like, that's too many carbs. That's too much sugar. You're going to grow big babies like your mother. I was like, oh.
So speaking of babies, I believe we're all in the same boat. We all have grandchildren.
Mhm.
And is it like you talk about the probiotics and all of that? Is that something you start your kids on? And is that something that their systems handle? How do we introduce that? Because, like the way I was with myself, I was much more lenient than I was with my children. And then with my children, I'm probably even more strict or more worried about things with my grandchildren, because it seems like the things the stores are putting out, the fast food restaurants are putting out, that it's worse. Like I see obese children, like little children. And I want our listeners to know, I know that there are circumstances to where we don't understand, and I don't want them to think that we're judging, but it's not because I'm worried about their size. I'm worried about their health, and not just their physical health, but their mental health, because
oh my gosh,
they are going to be teased more or left out more. And so all of that affects them. So how do we start with our littles to bring these right things in, especially when so many of our listeners are busy moms and mompreneurs and entrepreneurs and doing this and wearing the cape and, all of those things. So where do we start there?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a good question. I see your passion. I feel the same way, because it's like, the child can't go to the supermarket, obviously. So it's up to us. And the thing that's great is, with kids, they don't want it unless we give it and they get that taste for it. So that's why when they're really little, like, it's easy to keep them away from sugar. I mean, it's easy, like, no candy, no, like they don't need the artificial stuff, the colors and dyes and all that. It's like limited as much as you can. And I know when they go to school, then that's another thing. That's a whole another thing. But if they haven't had it, they'll be like, I don't really want that. Or if they taste it, they're like, ugh, it's like too sweet.
That is so true. That is so true. My son Parker, he never drank soda pop. I never let him have it when he was growing up. And my nephews were the same way. They never really drank it. they drink nothing but water. And now they're adults and they have an option, but they choose not to because they're not missing anything. So you make a very good point.
Yeah, I was just talking to a parent the other day about, it was in one of the parenting groups that I'm in, and she was saying, like, all my kid will eat is sugar. Like, even for dinner, it's like cookies. And he's like 2 years old. Like, no, you got to stop that right now.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Because then you can't get them to eat nutritious foods. And in the beginning, it's so important to like really set that up, because they won't want it if they don't have it. And that's you know what I mean? That's all up to you as a parent to not expose.
So how do we
them.
change it? So
How do you change it?
I get the not wanting it if they've never had it, which is very good. But what if they're in that circumstance where they've already started to create those habits and that child already has those cravings like we do? How do they wean them correctly? Or what are the corrections that they make in the behaviors mentally and physically so that they have baby steps like you gave us with the fresh living?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question too. And again, I think it's education, and it's going to depend on the child. We used to have like a Sunday dessert, and we would make it. It was a big deal. It was a big deal, and we would plan it and we would bake it together. Get them involved and educate them and say, even with the sugar grams, like, okay, this is what is healthy for us, because we want to be healthy so that we can bring our best. We can have good mental, function, everything. So give them the reasons why, like educate them. I want you to be able to like have really good energy and have really good sleep and be able to focus. And if you get too much sugar, it really interrupts that. So let's do this together. So the number is 25. That's, okay to have. So let's do some investigating and make some choices here, and getting them involved in cooking the stuff. And you could add half the amount of sugar that the recipe calls for. You know what I mean? And the less sugar they get, the less sugar they're going to want. Honestly.
I love that. And you could kind of, use the superheroes. Like my grandson right now is into all the superheroes. And so I can say, if you want to be like Iron Man, he doesn't take in the sugar. So I love bringing them into it and making them part of it, because now you're not just standing there saying, no, you can't have this. You're helping them understand why it's not good for them, which then turns around and builds those habits as well as educate them. I love that. That was good.
I don't know.
Thank you.
All I can think of right now is Popeye the Sailor Man and his spinach,
say,
right? That's all I can think of. But you know what? You bring up a very good point, because I think that we underestimate our children. I think that we don't give them enough credit for thinking for themselves, and we think that they have to be some magic number before we can start talking to them about serious things in life. And I love that you bring those conversations in while they're really young, and you educate them early.
And they learn to have respect for their body as a vehicle, which is ultimately what we want. And we want to bring that into their teen years. My kids really didn't get into drugs. It was more like they knew that if they were going to be a wrestler or if they were going to be a soccer player, they couldn't abuse their body. You know what I mean? So just that whole education too about exercise and how important it is. And ultimately the goal is to be a happy, healthy individual.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's the ultimate goal. So if you put it in that context, it's not like you can't have this and you can't have that. It just gets them involved. It gives them power. It empowers them. It's just a different vibe in the family.
It's not only educating, the way I hear it is it's not only educating them, it is actually, because you said, you can't be a good wrestler if you're doing this. That's also mindset. I mean, that is truly creating a balanced individual, which I think is every parent's goal as they're raising these littles to be, taller than we are. At least mine are now, some of them. So it's like giving them that balance so that they can carry that on into their lives and then pass that on to the next generation.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the way you do this.
And just
So, Dale-
feeling good about yourself. You know what I mean? Just feeling good. And this is so great. I love this. My great niece, she's 20, I think. And I saw her and she's quite overweight. My niece didn't listen to me. I remember her feeding her whipped cream when she was like 8 months old, and I was cringing at the time. Anyway, long story, she's very overweight right now at age 20, but she got into eating better, kickboxing. And I saw her this past winter and she said, you know what, Aunt Dale, it feels really good to feel good. And I was like, wow, I love that.
That's great.
Yeah, it was great. And kids, you want to feel good, right? Why would you want to feel like crap? And you're going to feel like crap if you're loaded up on sugar and if you're overweight and you're inflamed and you got brain fog, and you don't want that. Who wants that?
Now, it's real easy for us to come on here and have a conversation about this and get all gung-ho and we want to make changes. But it's even easier to turn the podcast off and then just go on to the next thing. What I love about you, Dale, is that you've got this Facebook page where we can come together. It's called Mental Wellness Warriors, and you're always giving more information. And it's kind of a support system for everyone out there who is trying to live this holistic life. Do you want to talk a little more about your Facebook page?
Yeah, I love this page because I'll go in there like and sometimes, you maybe have a day where you're not as excited or whatever. So I'll just go in there and I'll read a story and I'm lit my fire once again. So the page is really all based around the gut-brain connection. So it does have a specific purpose. So within that group, we have science videos where you can go and learn about the science of the gut-brain connection. But the amazing part of the stories that people share. So there's anywhere stories from children that had anxiety, teens that had anxiety, parents who had postpartum depression, parents who had, autoimmune diseases and were in chronic pain. They're no longer in pain. Just people taking back their health and learning that there are ways to do that. And that's been my mission. Even I think I said in the last podcast that I was introduced to holistic healing when I was 10 years old. My dad was given a year to live. He was diagnosed. They said, you have a year to live. He sought out alternatives and lived another 40 years. So I was introduced to holistic healing at a very young age. And then I went to school for teaching because I love children. But when I got out of school, I was like, you know what? I want to learn more about nutrition because this has been like nutrition and healing. And so I ended up working in like health food stores. And then I started having my kids and I took classes on like homeopathy and herbs and took my kids to acupuncturists, and you know what I mean? Like I just have lived this lifestyle for a really long time. And I just really truly believe in the power of the body to heal itself if you put it in the right environment. And that's the key, is putting it in the right environment, giving it the nutrients that it needs, living a holistic, stress-free, or learning how to manage your stress, holistically, which means diet, exercise, clean water, doing the things, mindfulness, yoga, whatever it is that reduces your stress. So that's like the holistic model, is every aspect of life, not just one. Body, mind, and spirit, totally balanced.
I love it. Now, every week, Rachel asks our guest, when we have a guest, to come up with a challenge. So, Rach, you want to take us away?
Sure. So, Dale, I know you gave us the fresh, warm lemon water challenge, which I am totally going to do immediately. But what is another? I'd like you to give a mind, a body, and a spirit easy challenge. So there's actually going to be 3 guys. Get your paper and pen out. Give them one each that will start them with those baby steps.
Okay. So as far as the body, like you said, the lemon challenge, but also filling up whatever you got that's half of your body weight in ounces. Okay. Fill that up every day. and see how you do. You don't have to get it done tomorrow, but each day get up a little bit higher with your water intake. That'll make major changes right there. The spirit, even if it's 5 minutes, to just reflect on the life that you want to create. Picture what that feels like. Picture what that looks like. Give yourself grace along the way. It's so important, just one day at a time. In terms of the mind, I love to read, make my own affirmations of what I want to see, but read them. Read them in the morning when you get up, you have them at your bedside. Before you go to bed, you have your affirmations, what you want for the next day to be. Even gratitude, I know that you women, you talk about that a lot too, right? Women talk about gratitude, and just having those along with those other affirmations to read in the morning and at night, and just have that become a ritual. And that could be 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and that's the discipline piece, right?
I love it. So body is the lemon water and a half of your body weight in water. Spirit is reflection on your vision for your life and where you're wanting to go. And then mind is to create the affirmations that move you in your journey, and then to take time to read those morning and evening and making that part of your routine. Those are awesome challenges, and we really hope you as our listeners will take those on, because this lady knows her stuff.
Yes, she does.
Can I add one more?
Yes.
Put on a song that makes you dance, like you have to dance. You absolutely have to.
I love it. I'll have my husband sing to me.
Well, you must have a very special husband.
I do. And he's got a very good voice also.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
So I want to thank you very much for coming on. Can you tell the listeners how they can find you?
Yes, I'm on Facebook all the time. That's where I spend my time. I do a lot of videos on my personal profile. So you can just look for Dale LaCure and then message me and say, what was that group? That Mental Wellness Warriors, and I'm happy to invite you in. I'd love for you to become part of the community.
Speaking of gratitude, we are so grateful that you took the time to come on and share with our listeners. Thank you so much for being here, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you. It was so great. Thank you.
Life doesn't always come with directions. Sometimes you have to jump, pivot, and roll. If you like today's episode, please like it, share it out, and make some comments. Let us know what you want to hear more of, because we're here to serve you. You guys have a great week.
Bye, guys.